Are you an extrovert? Is your child more of an introvert? Are you a nighthawk, while your child is an early riser? Temperament is a part of our inherited makeup, and it influences our behavior in our relationships with our children, our partner, and others. When parents understand their temperament traits and those of their child, everyone can benefit. This clip will introduce the concept of temperament, describe the different temperament traits, and identify the importance of the goodness of fit between you and your child's temperament.
Hello, I'm Carol Krill-Russell. I'm an advisor to Invest in Kids on parenting and child development. I'm going to talk today about temperament, and I'm very excited to do this because I think knowing about temperament helps parents be more effective parents, more than almost anything else you can learn about. So temperament is actually composed of what we call 9 emotional building blocks, and they're called traits, and they affect how you respond to life. I'll just mention them briefly, and we'll go into them in detail a bit later on. But the 9 traits are sensitivity, activity, emotional intensity, rhythm or regularity, adaptability, mood or positivity, approach, withdrawal, persistence, and distractibility. Why are these traits important? Well, we're born with them. We see them beginning early in life. They affect how you act with others, your partner, your child, your coworkers. How permanent are they? Well, they stay with us over time, and we use them in different types of situations. They're biologically based. We know they run in families. No single gene causes these traits, and scientists think they won't probably find an actual single gene for them. These tendencies are turning out to be not simple, but complicated, and they are genetically related tendencies, not destiny. You won't keep these throughout your life without change. They can be changed, but they are genetically related. These traits are better at predicting what you will not become rather than what you will become. They appear in different degrees. Some are more dominant than others. Some appear in the very early years, others after age 5, and even others arrive in the teen years. So it's important to learn about temperament because you have temperament, your partner has temperament, your baby has temperament, and knowing our temperament helps us understand ourselves and others and to parent more effectively. Now we're going to talk in more detail about the temperament traits. What do the high and low versions of these traits look like and feel like in a young child? When it comes to activity, there are 2 types. There's the low activity child who is laid back, content to watch others be active around him or her. And then there's the high activity child. These children start out being the squirmers, and as babies they wave their arms and kick their legs and wriggle their bodies nonstop. There is the concept of adaptability. Children who are low in adaptability find it hard to move from one part of their day to the next. Those who are high in adaptability transition from one activity to the next with no problem. They accept your leadership and easily go from sleep to wake, from house to car, and from playtime to bath time. There's a trait called approach. Children who are low in approach are your shy children. They're very tentative in new situations, very uncomfortable in new situations. On the other hand, there are what we call high approach children. These children are very enthusiastic about new people and new situations. They seem very bold. When it comes to distractibility, some children don't easily stop what they're doing, no matter how enticing the distraction might be. These children are low in distractibility. The children who are high in distractibility are easily sidetracked from one thing to another. There are children who are mellow and calm, and we call these children low on intensity. The children who are high on intensity, these are your big responders. They squeal delightedly with happiness and they shriek with despair. When it comes to persistence, those who are low in persistence, they give up easily. When they're learning how to walk, if they fall down, they might not get up and try again for 2 or 3 days. Those who are higher in persistence, they continue to do what they want, even when they're faced with obstacles. And these are the children, when they're learning to walk, stand up, and when they fall down, they stand up again, and when they fall down, and they just keep going until they've got it mastered. There are some children who are serious and more difficult to please. We call these children low on positivity. They find it hard to have a positive attitude when they experience a setback. On the other hand, there are children who are just generally sunny and cheerful. That's their nature, and they're very resilient in the face of setbacks, and those are the children who are high on positivity. When it comes to regularity, there are some children who it's very difficult to predict when they're going to be hungry or tired, and they are low on regularity. On the other hand, there are some children who seem to have internal clocks that keep them on a predictable schedule, and they don't like to deviate. When it comes to sensitivity, there are some children who are just blissfully unaware of things that bother others, and they don't easily pick up on interpersonal signals. On the other hand, there are some children who are just super sensitive, and they react strongly to even mild lights, mild sounds, mild textures, tastes, and pain. These children are profoundly distressed by things like thunderstorms or wet diapers. There are some children who have a combination of traits, and that's what makes each child unique. And we're just going to cover for a few minutes here some typical combination of traits in children. There is the exuberant child. This child is loud, intense, and somewhat insensitive to the people that are around them. There is also what we call the highly reactive shy child. This consists of about 20% of children. These children are good in school, they're obedient, they're compulsive, they don't like to make mistakes, they're very predisposed to be anxious and worried. But their teen years are not very bad because they're very afraid of making a mistake and they don't test the limits. On the other hand, there's what's been called the Teflon child. This child is really easy to get along with. Nothing seems to faze them. And parents don't tend to give them very much in terms of setting limits. But in the teen years, because they are not used to taking parental advice, it just bounces off them during their teen years, and they're more reckless and cause their parents more worry. One of the things that you might want to do is to fill out the temperament worksheet. And actually, if you're in a couple relationship, your partner should fill it out as well. This temperament worksheet will take you through each of the 9 traits and ask you to rate your child from 1 to 10 as to whether you think your child is high or low in each of the 9 temperament traits. Then you can compare your answers with your partner, and then together you can see what kind of a child you think you have. Goodness of fit is the phrase that is used to describe either the match or the mismatch of temperament traits between 2 members of the family. There are 3 people in the family, so there are 3 temperaments. There's moms, dads, and childs. And for parents, it's important to know yourself and what kind of temperament you have. And then one way to do that is to take the Goodness of Fit worksheet and complete it separately. Mom fills it out separately from dad, and it takes you through and asks you for each of the 9 temperament traits where you would rate yourself and where you would rate your partner. So you would do it, your partner would do it, and then you would get together and compare, and you'd see how closely you are on all of those 9 traits and where you're far apart. And maybe it's a really good discussion to have. Some typical Goodness of Fit challenges to parenting as a teen come when mom and child fit well together, but dad doesn't, or when dad and child fit well together, but mother doesn't, or when mom and dad fit well together, but the child doesn't. Parents label children difficult or easy, and this is partly subjective. Some traits are just easy for us to accept, and others are not. Interestingly, the ones that are easy for us to accept may not be easy for others to accept. So, for instance, if you take your child to the grandparents, some of the things that are easy for you to accept in your child may not be so easy for the grandparents to accept. And then gender gets mixed up in this too. So if you have a highly active child and your child is a girl, it may be viewed more negatively than if you have a highly active child and your child is a boy. But whether you label your child as difficult or easy is also partly objective. Intense, highly reactive children are much more difficult to parent. It's really difficult to listen to a child in distress, and anxious children are going to show a lot more distress than easygoing children. Remember, A lot of parenting is tied to the goodness of fit between your temperament traits, your partner's temperament traits, and those of your children. Comfort, play, and teach is a strategy that you may find helpful in working with temperament. I will cover 3 different temperament traits: activity, sensitivity, and adaptability, and how to use comfort, play, teach to bring out the best in both the high and low versions of those traits. Beginning with low activity, the low activity child is content to sit and watch everybody else be active around him or her. So a comfort strategy for a low activity child is to avoid criticizing this child because he likes to do things more slowly than average. He needs to feel comfortable with his own approach to life. A play strategy would be to find a very few active things that your child likes to do and to support them. So take, for example, some children really like swimming or really like swinging, and you could bring those into your child's life. But it's important to avoid having her sit quietly for long periods of time. On the teach strategy, it would be really helpful for you to plan ahead and allow your child the time he needs so that he does not spend his life feeling rushed all the time. This lets him learn and do activities at his own pace. One of the best things that you can do for your high activity child is to help them learn what is permitted and what is not permitted before she gets into trouble. So if you can anticipate your child's next move and intervene when necessary to avoid a catastrophe, you'll really be providing a lot of comfort to your high activity child. When it comes to play, it's really critical to provide lots of opportunities to help your child burn off energy in a safe, supervised sessions, and this also helps them be more inclined to settle down when it's time to sleep, learn, or to play quietly. And finally, on teach, one of the most helpful things you can do with your high activity child is to help them learn how to transition successfully from a high energy to low energy activities. And if you provide a cool down period when it's time to switch to quiet time, again, this is something that they need to learn. The low sensitivity child is the child that misreads others' obvious cues. For instance, that dad is busy and really shouldn't be bothered right now. So a comfort thing that you can do for children who are low in sensitivity is to provide a secure place for your child to go when he misreads what else is happening in the room. This helps your child feel safe enough to start to learn what went wrong. On a play strategy for the low sensitivity child, this child needs to become more familiar with how others express emotions. So you can use imaginary play to encourage your baby to label feelings. For example, tell him, this is how a mad cat meows, and this is how a sleepy cat meows. And your child will become more familiar with how others express emotions. For your child who's low on sensitivity, teach is a very important strategy to use. You need to teach your child how to recognize other people's feelings. Point out to your child, Daddy is tired. Mommy hurts, give her a kiss. This is called emotion coaching, and this is a vitally important piece of teaching children who seem to be insensitive to learn to recognize the feelings of other people and how to show their own emotions appropriately. On the other hand, the highly sensitive child needs to learn how to stay calm when a scary situation arises, and scary situations arise a lot for the highly sensitive child. So a comfort strategy to use is, if you see an emotional or threatening situation that may overwhelm your child, help prepare your child in advance. For example, if a thunderstorm is coming, stay close to your child and talk about it calmly and soothingly. Another thing you can do is to provide your child with a variety of relationships that are soothing and nurturing. This will help your child find the world to be a safe place from which to explore. A play strategy that you can use with your very sensitive child is to encourage your baby to express her feelings, again, particularly when she's doing imaginary play. So you can use the same approach that you did for your insensitive child with your sensitive child. With your insensitive child, you're trying to teach them what the emotions are. With your sensitive child, you're trying to let them become familiar with and more comfortable with emotions. So you can say, this is how a mad cat meows, this is how a sleepy cat meows, and your child will become more comfortable with and less threatened by other people's feelings. With a very sensitive child, when it comes to teach, you want to set limits very gently. Highly sensitive children often just need that look to stop them in their tracks. Being too stern can upset them way beyond what is needed to teach them. They want to please you and learn from you. Children who are high in adaptability go along with others, and they need to learn to value their own choices as well as those of other people. A comfort strategy you can use with a highly adaptable child is to show your child that you are thrilled when she makes a choice for herself. A play strategy that you can use with your highly adaptable child is to provide your child with play opportunities where he is the leader. For example, let him decide what to play and where to play. And this helps him learn to be a leader, even though he's more naturally accommodating to others' wishes. A teach strategy you can use is to teach your child who to trust and who not to trust. These children need to learn to evaluate people and not just go along with whoever is around. For children who are low in adaptability, they find the days and life's transitions difficult. So a comfort strategy you can use with a child like this is to praise his successes in adapting to change, such as going from supper to bath without crying. This will help your child feel good about his day. A play strategy for this child where he needs to learn to adopt changes that cannot be avoided to make her social and emotional life much easier. You can use play to take small steps toward big changes that are on the horizon. For example, if your child is very attached to eating from a blue plate and you know that this can't last, make a game out of eating from different colored plates. A teach strategy you can use is to use the small steps approach to help your child adopt unavoidable changes. When you break down big changes into small steps, it makes them less traumatic, and your child learns to trust you to guide him through life's big challenges. I've taken you through 3 examples of how comfort, play, and teach can be used with 3 different temperament traits. For further comfort, play, teach examples with the other 6 temperament traits, go to parents2parents.ca. Another thing you can do is to use these examples to generate your own comfort, play, teach strategies to fit your unique family combination of temperament traits.
The temperament wheel is a visual way to look at your temperament traits and those of your child. Each spoke of the wheel has a trait and an inner, middle, and outer band. The inner band would be a low level of the trait, the outer band, the high level. The middle band would represent an individual with a mixture of high and low levels of a trait. For each of the traits, color in the band that would best represent yourself. Once you have completed your wheel, then complete a wheel for your child. Then compare the similarities and differences between the 2 wheels. Your partner could also complete a wheel, and you could compare the differences and similarities between you as parents and between your partner and your child. To help you complete the wheel, you could replay the podcast and complete each trait as Dr. Krill Russell explains them.